Hello, welcome back. Today I thought it would be fun to talk about some of my favorite unhinged books. All of these will be in the horror thriller genre just because that's my go-to. That's like my safe space. And a majority of my unhinged books just so happen to be horror and thriller. I feel like it's difficult to find more unhinged books outside of, well, not more difficult, but there's a lot of unhinged books in the horror genre, especially once you get into the extreme horror or splatterpunk side of all of that. Two of these actually are from that genre. So we're just going to get right into it, and I'm going to tell you about some of my favorites. The first on my list of unhinged books is Tender is the Flesh. If you haven't read this book yet, I 100% recommend it. It's nice and short. It's easy to get through. I read it in like a day. I love that book so much. It's horror, but it's like body horror, psychological horror kind of deal, which is my favorite. It irks you without scaring you. And that's what I love the most about it. If you're not familiar with Tender is the Flesh, it is a book about this man living his life in a future of our current times, I guess you could say. He's in the future. And he lives in a society where meat has been diseased and can no longer be eaten. So they start to breed humans as livestock, and that is the meat that they consume. That is, I think, the part that most people get irked by, but it's the side story that goes along with that irked me the most in the best way possible. I plan to reread Tender is the Flesh at some point and annotate it just because I feel like there's so much that I missed the first time reading through it, and I really want to look a little bit deeper into it. I have no complaints about that book. It is in my top 5 books. I absolutely love it, and I recommend it to everybody. So if you're looking for an unhinged horror that's not gory, violent, any of that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a little bit of violence, obviously. But if you're looking for something a little bit easier to read without all kinds of gore and that kind of stuff, Tender is the Flesh is definitely a good place to start. The content is not for everybody, but I recommend it. It is a really good book. My other ones, they are unhinged in different ways than this one. The cannibalism is obviously the most unhinged part of this book, but the other ones are unhinged in a much more extreme way, and you will see why in just a second. We'll talk about those next. The second book in this list is probably the second most unhinged I have on this list. Yeah, I would call it second. Laws of the Skies, another one of my favorites. It is beautifully written. It is very well done, but it is a kind of horrifying concept. Laws of the Skies is like if you took Lord of the Flies, made the kids younger, and made it more gruesome. So this book is about a group of children. I believe they are ages 6, 7, around that age. They're around kindergarten age. And they go on a field trip. It is a camping trip in the woods. And things just kind of snowball from there. I don't want to give too much detail just because I hate doing spoilers and I don't want to spoil anything. But it is a super, super short book. It's just a little novella. I read it, once again, in a day. It is hard to read at times. Like, I did have to take breaks with that one. Like, it will make your stomach churn a little bit. But, like, child on child violence is extremely gruesome and extremely unhinged, but this book did it so well. I think it did a good job of showing a more childish mindset. We got to see the thought processes of multiple children that are at like multiple mental stages, like levels of development, that kind of stuff. So seeing the difference between these different children, the things that they are worried about, the things that they are thinking about in these like terrifying moments, is actually like probably one of the most horrifying parts. But it's so good. Like, it's well made. I am not trying to like approve of like violence pertaining to children. It's not something that I think needs to be like written about or talked about more. It's just kind of something that most of us don't really want to think about. But oh my god, Lord of the Flies, the problem I had with it was that it, well, first of all, the ending. We don't actually know what happened at the end. Laws of the Skies has a like set ending, so like we know what happened. And I just felt like a lot of the kids in Lord of the Flies didn't act their age as much. Whereas in Laws of the Skies, I feel like they do kind of act their age. And seeing these kids that come from different backgrounds and like households, that kind of stuff, it really shows how much kids are affected by that kind of stuff. And that, I think, is what made me like the book so much. Not that it's like gory and gruesome and nasty, but like thinking about the psychology of it is kind of what I like the most about it. But we will stop talking about children now, and we will move on to a book that is unhinged only because of the characters and not so much because of what is happening. Next, we are going to talk about the book You by Caroline Kepnes. I don't know why I said Lauren. Caroline Kepnes. This is also a Netflix series. It was turned into a Netflix series. I haven't watched the series yet, but I did read the first book in the like series of books. Oh my god, I shouldn't be tired. But this book is a stalker story told from the point of view of the stalker. That, I think, is what makes it so unhinged, is you really see into the mind of this person, why they are doing the things that they do, how they got to that conclusion. Like, seeing the thought process of somebody like that kind of makes you feel icky. And there were multiple points in the book where I had to like put it down for a minute and be like, that is disgusting and I don't even want to think about it. But it was so well done. I don't think I've ever really read things from like a negative point of view, from like the one that you're not rooting for. But this book did it so well. I think it might have been kind of cool to see more than one point of view in that book. Whew. So, like, from the stalker's point of view, the victim's point of view, like, all of that. But I also think it added to the uneasiness to only see it from that negative point of view. I still need to read the other books in the series. I know one of them is Hidden Bodies. That's the only one I can think of right now, though. But there are multiple other books in that series. I'm very excited to read all of them. I definitely recommend this book. If you have seen the series that Netflix made, it is different than the book in a few ways. I only know that. Oh my gosh. Ugh. I only know that based off of things that I've been told about the series. I know a lot of people that have seen the series and never read the book, and they talk to me about it, and I'll be like, I feel like the series is not nearly as creepy as the book. I feel like it's harder to do more of that, like, inner dialogue in a movie or a show. I don't know. It's just different when you're reading it. I think it's because when you read it, you kind of visualize it in your own way. And it's different. Oh my gosh. When somebody visualizes it for you, it is different. That's my full explanation for you. This is going to be just like a quick little video. But we're going to move on. The next two are the other books in the top 3 most gruesome on this list. Next one is probably the most horrifying. Just a heads up. This next book is in the splatterpunk category. Very much in the like extreme horror splatterpunk category. I guarantee you have heard of this book. I see people talking about it everywhere, especially people in the extreme horror kind of community. Dead Inside. I did not really enjoy this book. This is the only book on the list that I didn't really like. The cover is gorgeous. I bought it because of how pretty the cover is. And I saw a lot of people that read a lot of extreme horror loved the book. So I had pretty high expectations. Oh my gosh. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. But I had high expectations for this book. I couldn't believe it when I saw it in Barnes & Noble. I thought there is no way that they are actually selling this book at Barnes & Noble. So I got myself a copy, and it will remain on my bookshelf because it is gorgeous, and I do love the look of it. It just wasn't my favorite. So Dead Inside is the most disgusting book on this list. This book is about a necrophile who works as a security guard, and he meets a woman who is a cannibal, and they start a like friendship, almost relationship kind of deal. And it is so unhinged in so many ways. There are very graphic descriptions of the activities that are done in this book. The characters, I think the characters were like okay. Like the writing was okay, but I feel like it could have been better. The backstories for the characters, one of them, like the backstory for the security guard, I thought made a lot of sense. I kind of liked how they did that. The woman's backstory, though, I just didn't really like it. It didn't make sense to me. Like I just was not a fan. The ending of the book had a bit of a twist, and I'm actually still kind of flabbergasted at how that book ended. I was really hoping it would not end the way it did, but then it did. And I am glad to say now I never need to read that book again because I know what it is. I know what it's like. I do not recommend it. If you already like horror and you want to get into extreme horror, I have other recommendations for you. I do not recommend Dead Inside. If you are curious, I'm not going to tell you not to read it. You are your own person. You control your own life. It is a novella, so it's really short. I read it in like 2 days just because I had to put it down a couple times and be like, I don't even want to keep going with this for a little bit. I just need to process. It was a pretty gross book, and it made me feel icky and sickly, and I do not recommend it. If it was better done, I probably would have enjoyed it, but I just feel like it could have been written better. Now, we are going to talk about my absolute favorite book on this list. It is a book that I will recommend to anybody wanting to get into extreme horror. Super excited. If you've been here a while, you probably know what it is already. The last book on this list, one of my all-time favorite top 5 books, is Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. I absolutely loved everything about this book. The writing was amazing. The depictions of mental illness were amazing. Everything about it was so spot on. This book is about 2 women that meet in a chat room online. They enter a BDSM type relationship with one another. Not physically, though. They are still living separately, have never met each other. They only talk on this chat room, whatever, website. I have never seen such a more well done and more graphic description of psychosis and spiraling mental health that is progressively getting worse. There are so many spot on mental health depictions in this book that it is amazing. The whole premise of the book is that all of these chat logs are being used in a court case, in a lawyer's evidence of something. And I'm not going to say of what, because then that would give away the end of the book. But it progressively gets worse the further you read. There are very graphic descriptions of things. There are some very upsetting themes, like if you are somebody who cannot handle violence against animals, probably would not recommend this one. If you are somebody who does not like self-harm in books, I don't recommend it. If you get too weirded out reading about public humiliation, don't recommend it. This book was I can't even put it in words. I just love this book so much. I feel like it's very elegantly written. Being able to tell a story through only messages back and forth between two people alone is skill. Eric LaRocca does that genre and that style so well. I've read another book of his recently, The Trees Grew Because I Bled There, I believe it's called. It's a collection of short stories, and he does that similar style in a bunch of those. Love it. His style in general, I just really love. Has very quickly become one of my new favorite authors, but this book is what started my love of Eric LaRocca. I feel like the original cover from when it was indie published is absolutely gorgeous. I searched high and low for an original copy, and it is one of my most prized possessions. He does have, now that he is traditionally published, another collection of short stories, and that story is in it. So if you want that book novella story, you can get it with a collection of other stories, so you can read some more of his work. I definitely recommend it. That book was so amazingly done. I absolutely love it. I will be reading it again at some point just because it is that good. But those are 5 of my most unhinged books that I've read. Maybe we can do this another time too. There are more. I have read other unhinged books, so we could do this again. But until then, happy reading. I will see you next Friday. Bye.